Hey guys, welcome back to Karting with Chris. Today we're doing a 2-hour endurance race here at DKC. I'm with my boy Chris. What an awesome name. And we're going to be on teams together. And our team name is, what is it again? Chris and Chris PI. So if you ever get disqualified or have any issues on track, you come to us. We'll investigate it. So we're doing a track walk here. This is the start-finish line. It's quite windy, so I don't know if you can hear me or not, but it's quite windy, quite cold. Here's my predictions for the start of the race. If I get this right, you all have to subscribe, and I'll know. So at the beginning, I bet you at least 2 people will spin out going into this first corner because they do not understand how brakes work in a cold environment. After at least two people have spun out here, I think the next corner is going to be pretty safe, but then leading onto the chicane, either one person will be pushed out wide there, or one person will be pushed out wide there. Those are my predictions. We can see off track, a lot of mud, so hopefully we'll keep it on track. But man, is it cold. Alright, so the race is about to start. I don't know how, and I don't know if you can hear me, but somehow we're starting in second place. So here's our cart number 46. Again, starting P2, so we should be able to do well, right? Got every advantage in the book. There's only one person who can do better than us, and that's P1. Now I'm not starting the race, Chris is going to be starting the race, so hopefully we can do good. There's Chris, he's going to start the race. Obviously, it's not a standing start, it's a Le Mans start. But I mean, look at this. We're ahead of all these people. And it's gonna stay that way. All right, Chris. Chris is gonna do a practice jump. Let's see what you got. Double protection with the gloves. It's wicked cold out. I'm raw dogging it right now. All right, here goes Chris. One hell of a run in the cart. And away he goes. Oh wait, no, his foot got stuck.
I think we're gonna win this thing. I think we're gonna win it by 3 laps.
3 laps, okay. I'll try and keep to that. All right, we're about to start. Cart number 46. This is the winning cart right here. I'm filming. You can do it on track. Let's go, Chris. Come on, let's go, let's go. P3, let's go. Come on, hold P3. Let's go. P2. P1, baby, let's go.
So here is Chris's onboard footage of the start of the race. So as you can see, hops into the cart. His left foot did not get stuck this time. Although, who needs the left foot anyways? It's all about that right foot in these carts. You can see Chris gets a really good start. So he puts his seatbelts around his arms. He hasn't buckled in yet, but as you can see, no one's really buckled in yet. So he did get passed by cart number 34 there, but he dives on the inside up into P2. And then going through the chicane, he just moves up into first place, makes it look easy. And so now at the start of this race, we're in first. I told him to be in first at the start of the race, so good job so far, Chris. But the rule was, I didn't say it yet, but the rule was you had to get your seatbelt buckled by the end of the first lap. So that's what Chris is trying to do right now. It's very difficult. These carts have 4-point harnesses on them. So it's very difficult to buckle up, especially while you're on track. And you see right here, cart number 34, that's Shaston actually. And he's already buckled up. You can see how much faster Shaston is because he's already buckled up. Now Chris was really struggling with this cart. The seatbelt on this cart was pretty awful. It wasn't really that great. And the cart is pulling to the left going down the straight here, so Chris is having to multitask like a Swiss Army knife here. And I will say, I couldn't see this from the sidelines, but after reviewing this footage, Chris barely got his seatbelt on in time. So there's the start-finish line right there. You see him give a thumbs up. He barely got his seatbelt done in time, but he got it on. That's all that counts. And we're still in P2.
All right, so we're holding P2 right now. We're being challenged for P3, or by P3. The people in P1, I know them. They're pretty quick drivers, so it's going to be tough, but Chris is our slower driver, so hopefully when I get up there, we can do well. And as I'm watching right now, we're about to be passed by third place. So we're now down into third, but still, Chris is doing well. He's got a clean open track. This is looking good for us.
So right here in cart number 58, that is the team that just passed us for second place. Now, as you can see, they were very quick. Now, I don't know if they had any weight on that cart or not. I wasn't really keeping tally of who had weight and who didn't. But based off of how quickly they're pulling away from Chris here, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't have very much weight in that cart. So at the moment, we can see the top three in front of us, or top two in front of us. We're in the top three. The person in second is already caught up to Shaston in first, and it's looking like they're going to pass him too. So this is not good for us. We don't want someone to pull away from us so easily. But behind us, you can't see it, but there's a large gap behind us, so we don't have to worry about fourth place. Chris can focus all his time and energy on trying to catch up to the top two. So we're going to skip further into this race. I'm not going to show you every lap of this race. That will be way too long. I also will not have a position counter or a lap counter because I'm not going to count every single one of these laps. I think there was 103 laps or something like that. I'm not going to count all of those. And it's very difficult to tell what place you're in because once people start pitting, it's very difficult to tell where you are within the race. But we did skip ahead here, and we can see that the guy in first has just pulled away from everyone. I think it's pretty safe to say he was running a little bit lighter than Shaston and Chris here. For those of you wondering about the weight, it is average based, so everyone on the team has to weigh an average of 175. And Chris and I, whenever we weighed ourselves, our average was 178, I think. So we're really good on average. Chris is a little heavier than me, so that means that I'll be the lighter driver, and theoretically I should be the faster driver as well. So as you can see here, Chris has actually started to catch up to Shaston in front, and it looks like Chris might be a little bit faster, but it might make more sense in this scenario to work together with Shaston, but that's entirely up to Chris and Shaston.
So it looks like Chris has just found himself a drafting buddy. I believe that's Shaston he's drafting with. Shaston's a pretty good driver, so this is good. Chris is in third right now, Shaston's in second. P1 has kind of pulled away a bit, but like I said, I'm our faster driver, so once Chris has done his stint, I should get in there and we should do well. And it looks like we have a pretty decent kart, so we do have a good shot at this.
So right here you can see Chris and Shaston working together. Like I said earlier, it is very windy here, so the slipstream and bump drafting, very effective on this day. And so down the straights, Chris is just going to push Shaston, and they'll both be going faster. And then up ahead, we have a lapped cart. And so what Chris can do is just let Shaston do all the work. If Shaston goes for a move, just follow Shaston through the move. Let him do all the work and just follow him. So going through turn 2 here, you see Shaston gets a little over-under on the person they were passing, and Chris just follows him. So they did that for quite a while, actually. And I was kind of, thinking, should I leave Chris out there a little longer because he's working with Shaston together so well. But Shaston is our enemy, or our competition, so we want to try everything to try and beat him.
Alright, so we're in P2 now. The people who were in P2 that we were right in front of, or right behind, just pitted. So we're kind of by ourselves. P1 is way ahead of us, like half a track ahead of us, but he's really quick and he looks pretty light, so I don't know if he's their light driver or not. P3 is a decent gap behind us as well, so it's looking good. Chris is kind of on his own. I'm going to bring him in about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to hit the track.
So I waved Chris in. Chris came into the pits. We did our driver swap. He locks up the tires. going in the pits as fast as we're allowed to. We're not allowed to bomb through the pits, in case you were wondering, but we're allowed to go decently fast. Coming out of the pits here, there is a stop box. You have to come to a complete stop within the stop box. Look both ways, make sure you're not going to hit anyone whenever you're joining the track. There was no one joining the track, or there was no one for me to hit joining the track, so I come out onto the track in relatively clean air. We see there's 2 carts in front of us, but I'm not concerned about them right now. I just have to try and figure out what the track conditions are and what the kart conditions are. So at this point, I don't know what place I'm in, and I don't really care what place I'm in either, because whenever you're doing an endurance race, you're not going to know what place you're in until everyone does their pit stops. And so it's just not going to be very good information for me. What would be good information is my lap times compared to other people, so I know if I have good pace or not. But if you're passing a lot of people, you're catching up to people relatively quickly, like I am on cart number 49 here, usually means you have decent pace. So right now, I'm just trying to figure out what the kart's like, what the track's like. The one thing I noticed is that it was a little slippery, but I just thought that was because of cold tires. And yeah, it did take the tires a little while to warm up. These tires are rock hard, take a lot of time and energy to get some heat into these things. But once the tires started warming up, the track felt fine. You'll see me lose the back end a couple of times, but nothing significant. So our race strategy for this race was to put Chris out for 30 minutes, and then I would do the rest of the race, hour and a half. It's a 2-hour endurance race, in case I haven't said that yet. Some of you might be thinking that's unfair. You should let Chris do the same amount of laps as you. It was his idea, so don't hate me for doing this. It was his idea. He said it was fine. He wanted to do this. And the reason we're doing it like this is, like I said, lighter drivers are going to be faster than heavier drivers. So it just makes more sense that you give your faster driver more seat time. So from here on out, I'm going to be finishing this race. I know that going into this race. And so I'm not going to be giving it 100% for an hour and a half. I would just tire out too quickly. So I'm going about 90, maybe 95%. These are rental karts. You don't end up tiring yourself out as easily within rental karts. But up ahead, you can see I have caught up to this group of 3 here, making light work of cart number 35 here, going on the inside of this banked corner. I think they're calling it a carousel. I don't know. In cart 58 is my friend Tommy. Haven't raced with Tommy in a long time here. Sending it up the inside. He got a bit of grass going through the straight there, but Tommy's able to hold it around the inside of the double right-hander. But we did end up passing one other cart, so we ended up gaining not a position, but we ended up passing someone, I guess. Now, cart 58, that's the team that passed Chris for first place and pulled away from everyone. So ideally, I want to get ahead of this guy because they're our competition. I don't know if this is for position or not, but I'm just going to pass Tommy. I tap my helmet here. I know Tommy's a fast driver. I've driven with Tommy a number of times. I know he's a quick driver, and I saw before they have a decent cart right here, outbraking myself on accident. And so right now we're accidentally fighting with Tommy here. This is not what I want to happen, but staying ahead of Tommy, I did feel like I had a little bit more pace than him, so I don't want to get stuck behind him. Going through the carousel here, accidentally turned in a little early, get too much of that curbing, say sorry to Tommy here, and Tommy goes around us. So this is not what I want to happen. I don't want to be fighting with Tommy like this. But going through this double right-hander up ahead, Tommy's going to go a little wide of the corner, and so I'm going to nip it up the inside. And so we're going to pass him again. You don't want to be passing people constantly like this, especially when it's the same person. Going through the left-hander, absolutely send it on cart number 51 there. I felt like he was going a little slow, so just might as well send it. And I think Tommy followed me through the move. But at this point, I don't want to make any mistakes because Tommy's just going to pass me right back if I make some mistakes. So I just need to settle down, just drive my race. And if Tommy wants to push me, he can. But ideally, just pull away from him. And that's exactly what happened. I did slowly pull away from Tommy. He said after the race that I was just a couple tenths here and there faster than him. And he was trying to keep up with me, but he just couldn't. So at this point, we are starting to pull away from Tommy. Don't have to really worry about him trying to pass us. This is also good news for us because they're our direct competition. It was that team and the other team that had Shaston in it. Those two teams were within our direct competition. The three of us were kind of on our own compared to everyone else, so it was kind of a three-way battle for first. So the fact that we passed them on track is good. So some of you might see me throughout this race not go for moves that I should go for. In an endurance race setting, if you've never done an endurance race, you should look for smarter moves rather than instant moves. So if it makes more sense to go for a move later in the lap because it'll minimize the amount of time you lose, then you should go for that. You should stay behind them and then wait for that move. Because in sprint racing, you can go for the instant move and then you can defend, right? In endurance racing, there's really not a lot of defending unless it's like the last couple of laps and you know the person behind you is for position. Now, some of you might be wondering about pit stops. So we had a 5 minimum pit stop. If you did less than 5 pit stops, you get disqualified. And if you do over 5 pit stops, then you're just dumb. Why would you do more than 5 pit stops? So we already did 1 pit stop where we did a driver's change between Chris and I. And then Chris told me I could have the rest of the pit stops and I could just use them periodically, maybe to just get out of traffic or just if I was getting tired. So right here, I did 1 pit stop. I was noticing that the track was actually pretty clear, so burning a pit stop right now wouldn't really make too much of a difference. Stopping in the stop box at the beginning, this seatbelt would not unclip. I stopped right here, tried to get the seatbelt to unclip. You can see right here, it just would not unclip. And this was the slowest pit stop I have ever done. But once you hop out of the cart, you tag your teammate, get back into the cart, and put the seatbelt back on. Let me tell you, I hate this seatbelt. I hope we don't have to use these seatbelts ever again, but I just hate these things. So we come out of the pits. Again, still don't know what place we're in. Doesn't really matter until we do all of our pit stops. Skip ahead a couple of laps. I say a lot of laps. Don't know what lap we're on, but we see cart number 34 in front of us. That was the team Shaston was on. So they're one of the 3 people that we're in competition with. Driving right now, I believe that's Cohen. I've raced with Cohen a couple of times. I know he's a very capable driver. I don't know if Cohen's one of their heavier drivers. I think Cohen races in the heavies class, so I should be lighter than him. Going down the straight here, he kind of points me forward, tells me, basically he doesn't want to fight me, which is smart of him, right? Just let him do his race, and then I'll do my race. So passing him on track, I don't know if that was for position or not, but he is our competition, so that was a good sign for us. So we skip ahead another handful of laps. Again, don't know what lap we're on here. Doesn't really matter. It's a time-based event. But we can see there are 2 carts in front of us. The one directly in front of us is cart number 55, about to go for the move through this left-hander on, cart number 39. Cart number 55 is my friend Ven. I've raced with him a handful of times. He also has a YouTube channel called Ven Does Racing. Go check it out. But Ven is a very fast driver. He's a very capable driver. But I think my cart might have been a little bit faster because I was just barely catching up to him ever so slightly throughout the race. So at this point, I have caught up to him fully here. He takes an interesting line going into turn 2 there. Kind of goes out wide and then cuts back. But yeah, I did catch up to him ever so slowly throughout the race. And whenever you catch up to someone, you should just pass them in an endurance race, unless you want to work together with him. At this point, I know I'm fighting with 3 other teams. He's not one of them, so I'm just going to try and pass him whenever possible. Like I said, Ven's a very capable driver, so I don't want to be sending it on him and fighting him. I just want to pass him the most efficient way possible. So, in my opinion, the best place to pass someone is the long, not so straight before turn 1. So coming out of the left-hander, we're right behind Ven, using that slipstream to our advantage here. He kind of opens the door on the inside here, so I kind of just drive up the inside, and we do pass him, kind of use that slipstream to our advantage here. And at this moment, if Ven's smart, he'll maybe want to work together with me. If a faster kart passes you, it makes sense to stay within their slipstream and just keep up with them. You should not fight someone who's faster than you, unless it's directly for position. But like I said, no one really knows what place they're in at this point. But whenever you get in front of someone, I don't know, you tend to make mistakes sometimes. Even the best people tend to make mistakes. And so going through this left-hander, followed by the double right-hander up ahead, I'm going to make a bit of a mistake. You see, I just get too much of that curbing on the entrance, and so it forces me to go out wide. Ven goes up my inside here, and at this point I'm like, you know what, I don't want to fight with Ven. I don't want to hold up his race, and more importantly, I don't want to hold up my race. So coming out of the left-hander right here, instead of going for the move, you see me raise my hand. I'm going to go into the pits instead of fighting with him and just do it that way. So this pit stop is going to be our 3rd out of 5 pit stops. So the first one we did a driver change, and the second one we hopped out and then hopped back in. So for this one we're just going to do the same thing, hop out, hop back in, telling that guy to move out of my way. So we hop out. Chris wasn't there, so I didn't tag him, I just tagged the barrier instead. And we hop back in and get the seatbelts on. And this pit stop was much faster than the last one. I think this one was my fastest pit stop. So looking both ways, stopping in the stop box, making sure I get my seatbelt on, and before you know it, I'm back in the race. Now, the reason Chris wasn't in the pits to high-five me was because he was in the bathroom. We all have to use the bathroom. Don't pretend like we don't. But the reason I'm telling you this is because Chris was keeping track of my pit stops. I was taking a mental note as well, but if you've ever done a race, especially an endurance race, and tried to count your pit stops, it's very difficult, especially after doing an hour and a half to 2 hours of racing. Your mind turns to mush. So Chris was counting the pit stops. I was also kind of keeping a mental note as well. But since Chris was in the bathroom, he had no idea that I did a pit stop. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is going to factor later on in the race. Now, one thing I will tell you is that our team set the fastest lap. I don't know who was in the cart whenever the fastest lap was set. They don't tell us that. But I think it was me, and I don't know what lap it is, but I'm just going to walk you through a random lap. This might be the fastest, might not be. Going into turn 1 here, don't outbrake yourself. A lot of people will outbrake themselves. They'll just brake way too late, not worth it. Full throttle through turn 2, maybe hit the apex a little better than I did right there. Through the chicane here, again, full throttle. Everything's pretty easily full throttle. Through the carousel here, try and get close to both apexes, if not touch both apexes. You want to hold it around the inside there. Down this little straight here, full throttle. It's a very easy track. This is the hardest corner right here. You can commit a lot of speed going through the first left-hander. Double right-hander, track out a little bit. You can carry a lot more speed through there than you think. Going down into the left-hander up ahead, it's just a normal left-hander. Brake at an appropriate time. Get on the gas early, though. I notice some people don't get on the gas very early through there, so get on the gas early. And then the not-so-straight straight, just take the shortest distance line. So you see that guy in front of me kind of going out wide. You don't really have to. You see I'm taking a much narrower line. I'm able to catch up to him. And then going into turn 1, this is what I'm talking about when people outbrake themselves. You can see they're just going too deep, and so you just lose so much time doing that. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not driving at 100%. I'm driving at like 90 to 95, so I could go a little bit faster, but for me, it's all about endurance, right? I'm driving an hour and a half, so this is as fast as I'm going to go for the time being. Now, I think our fastest lap was a 66.5. I don't know if that's considered quick around here. For this day, it was considered quick, so if you're trying to compare yourself to me, there you go. So we skip ahead. At this point in the race, I don't really know how much time has elapsed, but I know we're getting near the end of the race. And I'm thinking I've got 2 more pit stops left in this race. And so going down the not-so-straight straight, you're going to look over to the right and see my teammate holding a red sign. I don't know if you can see that, but I give him a thumbs up. The red sign means pit now. Pit on this lap. So we're going to go into the pits on this lap, which is good because Chris will be able to tell me how much more time is left in this race, because I don't have a timer on my cart. Maybe next time we should put a timer on the cart so we know how much time is left in the race. But in the rules it said you're not allowed to pit within the last 10 minutes of the race. So the red sign must mean that we're getting towards the end of the race. Chris wants me to do my 2 pit stops before the pits close. So we go into the pits, stop at the stop box, like the good person I am, undo my buckle, or I think I've already undone my buckle at this point, the most annoying thing in the world. I hop out of the cart, and Chris gives me some information that I was not expecting.
You got 20 minutes left. 2 more stops. Okay.
2
more. 2 0 minutes.
Now, for those of you who couldn't hear that, Chris told me I had 20 minutes to do 2 more pit stops. Now, this was very worrying for me because I thought I only had 1 more pit stop to do, because I thought I had done 4 and it was going to be my 5th one. But like I said before, one of the pit stops, Chris was in the bathroom, so he didn't know I had already done 1 pit stop. So at this point, I'm thinking my math's wrong. Like I said, when you're in the cart for a really long time, your brain turns to soup. And so I was trying to think on this lap right here, I was trying to think, did I actually do 4 laps or 4 pit stops? Or is Chris right? Do I still need to do 2 more? At this point, I'm thinking, well, maybe Chris has talked to an official and the official says I have to do 2 more. And whatever the official says goes. So at this point, I'm going to just go right back into the pits. He said I had 20 minutes, and I know that at 10 minutes to go, the pits will close. So at this point, I just want to get them out of the way as soon as possible. So going into the pits here, I'm just going to do a quick pit stop, and I'm going to ask him again if I have 1 more pit stop to go, because maybe I just misheard him in the pits. Now, fortunately, I've gotten a lot of practice doing these pit stops, so each pit stop is getting a little bit faster. Stop in the stop box, undo my buckle, and right here, I ask Chris, I'm like, do I have 1 more to go? He nods his head. He says, yes, I do have 1 more to go. So I tap him, get back into the cart, put my straps back on, and away I go. So we skip ahead a couple of laps. I did about 2 or 3 more laps after that last pit stop, but then I saw up ahead that there's a group of 5 or 6 carts up ahead, and I don't want to get caught up in that, so I decided to take my last pit stop right here. Now, if you've been counting, I've already done 5 pit stops, so this would be my 6th pit stop. And like I said, you only have to do 5 pit stops, so doing a 6th pit stop it just doesn't make sense. But we lost count. We forgot to count to 5. I guess we need to go back to grade school, but you can say we're just overachievers, you know? We take 5 and we say we'll raise you 6, or we'll raise you 1, we'll do 6. So we did our 6th pit stop. I can tell you no one in the pits did a 6th pit stop, as Mr. Stanfield tries to kick our cart there. Not cool, bro. But we go out on track having done our 6th pit stop, and at this point my GoPro is kind of running out of batteries, so I won't be able to show you the rest of the race. But what I can tell you is where we finished. So after 2 hours of racing and doing 6 pit stops, we ended up finishing in 3rd place. Now the gap between 3rd place, us in 3rd place, and the team that finished in 1st was 14.5 seconds. So here are the results right here. The team voted most hated won, and then some idiots came in 2nd, and then Chris and I got 3rd. And if you look in the far right column, that shows the gap between us and 1st place. So P1 ended up beating us by around 14.5 seconds. But since we did 1 extra pit stop, we calculated that a pit stop's around 30 seconds long, or it adds 30 seconds to your total time. We should have ended up in 1st by around 15 seconds, if my math is correct. So that's a tough one to swallow, because we could have won it if we just knew how to count to 5. But congratulations to P1 and P2, well deserved. They were pretty fast teams. We still got P3. I'm not gonna lie, I'm happy with that. We're still on the podium. I think this is like the first endurance race I've ever podiumed on, so it's good to have a decent result. Obviously, we could have done better, but that's all I'm gonna have for today. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions, please do comment below. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.